welcome to What the Fringe, the podcast dedicated to all things Fringe theater. I'm your host, Lauren Hance. Each week I visit with a Fringe artist to hear all about their endeavors and gain insight into their process. This week I'm visiting with Tyler West of Small Minded and our special guest, Cleo DeOrio. When Tyler was a little boy, he wanted to grow up and become a clown. Come to find out, it was a lot harder to achieve the former than the latter. When Tyler began his clown journey, he wore lots of makeup and a wig, but the makeup, wig, and nose othered him even more. While other clowns have a mask they can take off, dwarfism does not allow this. As a clown, I'm comfortable with people laughing at me. As a person, I'm not. Can these things be separated? A lot of people have heard about dwarfism, but how many know about what it means to be living with dwarfism in today's society? Join the tireless Tyler as he attempts to better the future for all vertically challenged people, bringing awareness to those who are forced to sing hi-ho in coal mines or to tall people pretending to be small for amusement. This show features everything from juggling to mind reading and some very serious acting, which is no small feat.
Because I was interested in clowning, I think people were like, okay, great, well, we're just gonna make you the clown in like all the Shakespeares and stuff like that. And it was like, that was really good experience, and like I got my time as a performer on stage, you know? But I think it's the default. It's like, oh, okay, we already, that sounds great. He has an interesting, weird body, so we'll put him in the interesting, weird character. Versus like, what about like an interesting, weird character that isn't someone that is easily imagined as a person with dwarfism? That's something that I'm like, do we have to have this be the like given circumstances of the character that we can put in, or can it just be like a person with feelings that is maybe quirky? And for sure, like that's what my cast type is, or that's what like my strong suit is comedy and such, you know. But what are the other opportunities and ideas that we can push the medium of that?
Tyler West is from Tucson, Arizona, was born with achondroplasia. He was in 7th grade when he saw Cirque du Soleil and was immediately inspired to become a clown. He researched clowns on YouTube and practiced funny faces in the mirror. This eventually led him to the University of Arizona, where he received a BFA in acting. After college, Tyler has made a career of being a full-time clown and physical comedian, traveling the world from burlesque bars in New York City to the shiny lights in Las Vegas. Most recently, Tyler's been on the road with the first national Broadway tour of Water for Elephants, the musical, in the role of Walter. In Sarah Green's novel, Walter is a circus clown with dwarfism. Tyler, welcome to What the Fringe!
Hey, What the Fringe is going on?
So good. Thank you for incorporating the title.
Of course.
Into our welcome. I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just talk about how we got connected. As my listeners know, I like keep up with lots of Fringes. I was looking at Orlando Fringe just to see who was playing, what shows were on, and your show kind of caught my interest. One, you have like a killer poster. Like it's like a really good image. So I really like it. I have strong feelings about that. I think everyone should have a really good like hero image, a really good poster. I mean, first you need to make good art. And then I think second, you need to have like good marketing material. And so like I give you 2 thumbs up for that. And then of course, I'm sure you may have heard this your whole life, but like the dwarfism was very interesting. I haven't seen anybody in Fringe with that. And I was like, ooh. So I was like, I am very interested in having this guy on the podcast and talking to him. And so thankfully you said yes. And here you are.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I mean, you're wearing green right now. So, and our poster, we all have green. This is a visual thing, and this is now a listening podcast. But anyway, you're wearing green and I'm wearing green stripes. So it all works out.
See, it was meant to be. It's so green. It's so good. Well, I mean, we're on YouTube, so everybody will see all of our green business as well. So let's get into chatting. And I think I had asked you this before we were on air. I was like, how do you prefer people to refer to you in terms of your stature? What is like the correct way?
I think in general, and I think what I'm about to say also goes hand in hand with the show as well. And it is my personal experience and my personal taste. So like, I think also what I say, I think it's pretty standard, but there are some people that want to be called other things, you know, and stuff like that. I've talked to some other people with dwarfism, but I haven't done a lot of dramaturgy on that, you know, and that's maybe also part of the problem and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long-winded answer. Short answer is, short answer. The short answer for the short people is, I think typical things are little person. Small person, I don't think is not necessarily the best term because we want to describe what our disability is or what the thing that we have is. Or so like person with dwarfism, I think is now like the new PC thing. But little person, dwarf, and the one is definitely not is midget. That's like no good. So little person with dwarfism, dwarf, those things are all good. I mean, but like I know a lot of people that they'll be like, oh, dwarf, can I say dwarf? And then it's like, because of, you know, that fairy tale, I think it's turned into this connotation that it's a mythical creature of some sort, you know, like even the Hobbit and stuff like that. Like, and it's like, no, we are still dwarfs and have dwarfism.
Well, great. Thank you for sharing that, because we always want to be sensitive to any person of what makes them who they are. And it's not at all the encompassing like thing of who you are. It is one part of who you are, but we want to make sure that we say the right thing. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's like the new golden rule is not treat others how you want to be treated. It's actually treat others how they would want to be treated.
I like that. So good. I think with anybody, especially, I mean, we've got like with gender and all of that, I think people appreciate being asked. Is that accurate?
I think for me, that's always much better than assumptions and just proceeding. But I'm also one of those people, like, I'm a clown and like, I like to find where the line is too. And if I go over the line and I see that and I register that I've offended someone, then I try to come back and be like, oh, sorry, I was just trying to figure that out.
That's great. I know it's so hard as like comedians. We sometimes don't know when to stop. Like, how far can I push the envelope? That's good. I'm an improviser, so we're always like, where do we?
Yes, but maybe yes, but.
Come on now. now you're skating on thin ice, Tyler. So good. Well, let's talk some more about you. Okay, so I love in your bio, we talked about when you were little, you saw Cirque du Soleil. And so that was like, it drew you in. And so what was it about clowning when you were a kiddo that was like, that I want to do that?
I think at the time I had the awareness that I couldn't do what the acrobatics was, but the show I saw, it was called Saltimbanco, and it was very like, the acrobats were also doing very comedy character and mask work. So they were also like very eccentric people and stuff like that. But then the clown, it was in an arena and he did a mime act with like a microphone in his voice and sound effects. No language really. And then pantomime, and he like basically like played a game of baseball with the audience, and 2,000 people were laughing their heads off and fully enraptured with this guy that was just like holding a ball, you know, in pantomime. And it was really like, what the heck is this? And then I just became obsessed and just like researched and like watched everything I could and did everything to try to achieve that.
What were your folks thinking? Like, oh gosh, this kid wants to go into the theater. Or how like supportive were they of you?
They were pretty supportive. I dressed up still as a kid. And then I think when I really started expressing interest in high school and I did plays, and then there was a community theater that I was doing productions in, they came and saw all that, you know, they're very supportive. But then I was like, I want to be a clown, but I guess I want to do acting because there's no real like clowning available right now. So like I'll do acting. And they're like, okay, but you must get a college education. We're going to pay for your college. And so I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm going to study acting. And they're like, all right, what's your minor? And I was like, I don't want a minor. I know too many people that have done minors and things, and then they just fall back onto that. The first thing was too tough, so then they just did the second thing. And I was like, I genuinely want to pigeonhole myself into this.
You did not give yourself an out.
No.
That's awesome. Well, what kinds of challenges and misconceptions did you face when you were younger and in college and even now as being a little person in the industry?
I think it's just interesting because this is something that we're still like in process, and like the show is very new and stuff like that, and we're still crafting it, and that's the beauty of the Fringe, is that you get to craft it while you do it as well. I think the reaction is comparing ones to Peter Dinklage and that stereotype. And then also because I was interested in clowning, I think people were like, okay, great. Well, we're just going to make you the clown in like all the Shakespeares and stuff like that. And it was like, that was really good experience. And like, I got my time as a performer on stage, but I think it's the default. It's like, oh, okay, we already, that sounds great. He has an interesting, weird body, so we'll put him in the interesting, weird character. Versus like, what about like an interesting, weird character that isn't someone that is easily imagined as a person with dwarfism? That's something that I'm like, do we have to have this be the like given circumstances of the character that we can put in? Or can it just be like a person with feelings that is maybe quirky? And for sure, like that's what my cast type is, or that's what like my strong suit is comedy and such, But what are the other opportunities and ideas that we can push the medium of that? I think in representation, you don't see a lot. And the show also goes into that you don't see much representation. There's not a lot of us in the world, but there's enough of dwarves to, have a voice and have a association. But how often do you see a person with dwarfism who is a doctor or a lawyer? Then that representation on a TV show or movie, like, you don't see that as well. There's going to be what joke is there going to be written for that, as well.
You saying that makes me think, I don't know if you've seen Lauren Gunderson's play, and the main character is deaf, and she studies all the stars and like made huge contributions to science. And in the play, it's like the late 1800s, I think, early 1900s. And she wears a device because they didn't have the hearing aids, but it was a hearing aid that like she wears so that she could hear better. I think in the play, I can't remember if they address it once, but I don't think they ever address it except in the stage notes. And one of the many reasons I love Lauren Gunderson as a playwright, she was like, this is a human being. Her deafness does not define her. It is part of who she is. And she had so much to give to the world. This play is not about that. It's about her as a human. And I love that she's done that. And it just makes me think like what you're saying, like, can we be doing more?
For sure. And as the world, there's still so much more work to be done within the diversity aspect of many different representations and stuff like that. And I think that the people of color community and that aspect, everyone's like, okay, we're kind of tired of doing Hairspray. We kind of just want to be people talking about love or marriage or whatever. And we just happen to be a person of color. That might affect some sort of given circumstance, which is great. Like, what does that bring to it? That is a whole thing that we could then have subtext involved in. They're also just people with problems as much as I am with everyone else,
You know who's done so great at that is like Chandra Rhimes. And right now I'm like, you need to write her a letter and be like, can I be in Bridgerton? Because she's so inclusive. Because I love to, like, so many people in that show, they're just humans that, like, I think they've had people in wheelchairs and on the like all these different disabilities, and it's not really addressed. Yeah, it's so good. Well, okay. So on that note, has there been a role that you have played that someone was like, yeah, I'm not going to cast you as the clown. I'm going to cast you as the leading man or cast you in this part. Have you been able to play something like that? Or do you have a dream role?
In high school, my drama teacher, I played Clarence the Angel and these other characters. And that was really great. To answer your question, this was still a clown. But when I was in Atomic Saloon out in Vegas, Cal McChrystal, he created that show and it's still running. It's a great show. And it was there for 5 years before I joined. And the whole time, this character, he's a preacher, and he was played by just an average height guy the entire time. And Cal, I worked on a previous project with him in England in a circus, and he was like, this part's opened up if you want to do it. And so then I did it, and that was the first time that I think I've ever played a part that wasn't really intended for a person with dwarfism. Granted, it was a show in Vegas and it was a comedy, and I was the short preacher kind of thing. And so there was maybe that level to it, obviously, and the spectacle of that to help with it. But I did felt the show was like, oh, he just fits the mold of the character and the art. It worked really great in that sense. For sure, granted, it added some things with who I am. But like that was the first time I was like, this is normally played by a person who's average and white and maybe like a dad bod, and now here's a dwarf in a G-string. So it got to that level. So that was, I think, a really like, interesting. This is kind of cool.
Well, and that's cool though, because you were cast like, it sounds like you're a character actor just in general. And then, so you're cast in this character role, and then it's what you bring to the table. Every actor brings themselves to the table. They're going to help shape and mold how that production looks with like who they are. And so I think it's really cool. There's like, here's this character, not specifically, a dwarf, and now we have a guy that's doing that. And how does that impact the show? I think that is actually really, really exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really cool to do that. So I'm very thankful of Cal.
Yeah, way to go, Cal. 2 thumbs up. Let's talk about Small Minded. To do that, we are going to bring in Cleo, who is your director and developer. So Cleo DeOrio, she is a physical theater and dance artist teacher from Cleveland, Ohio. Cleo received a BA from Baldwin Wallace University, where she focused on directing and choreography, and has an MFA from Del Arte International School of Physical Theater, where she developed works such as Citizens of Nowhere and Visions of a Crying Girl. Cleo specializes in storytelling through movement, physical character development, and devising original works. Cleo is currently the teaching faculty at Del Arte International and the Sitka Fine Arts Camp, and resident director of 2013 Clowns in Las Vegas and Del Arte International's Variety and Cabaret series. Cleo's Fringe credits include Godless and Pandora's Boombox. So Cleo, welcome to our conversation.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have both you guys on here. So let's talk about Small Minded specifically. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, but what drove you guys to want to create this piece? And in this time, like, why now?
I think for me, it's just something that I've been coming to terms with and processing and feeling that there is just this need right now to talk about this. I have a really good friend, Matt Frazier, and he's a big disability artist, and he's amazing, and he's like given me the red pill of like, this is what being a person who's disabled and an artist is. And so I think, yeah, like I've started to realize, maybe things that I've done in the past have been a little icky and not the best. And also I'm sensitive in public and when things happen with that. And so I think there needs to be something about this, and I'd like to comment on it. And I think as we've gone more and more with it, it was a good journey in the sense of like I wanted to be a little bit more Buffon or commentary on society maybe, but now I'm like, oh, Cleo's help brought that out, and Matt has also brought it out of like, it needs to be about my story and about me and my experiences, and because that's all I really know actually. So the thing I think has just been like, I would like to talk about it. I've been really fortunate to have some really good commercial work with Atomic and Water for Elephants right now. And those are really great, but like you lose yourself, your voice when you do bigger productions. And so the beauty about Fringe is this is our story. This is the way that we want to tell it. It might not be as big in production value as we want because we don't have the money to do it, but it is from a place of farm to table kind of thing, kind of not McDonald's.
Yeah, absolutely. Cleo, what about you?
So just to state blatantly, I am the director of the piece. I'm also helping Tyler write it, and I'm also Tyler's life partner. And so having all 3 of these different hands in the pot makes this piece obviously very important to me. Tyler has been coming to a lot of realizations in his life, and I'm the one that has the pleasure to be with him in those moments. So when he began writing the piece, we were like, okay, you're going to write it, and then once you have something, you're going to bring it to me, and we're going to devise the rest of it together. And we tried that process, and it just, the more we got it, the more I was like, okay, but honey, what's going on here? And what about this? And what about this? And he was like, okay, we just need to be writing it together.
And I'm not much of a writer. Like, I'm an ideas person, I think. But, like, she's really good with her words and ideas. And she also, as, my partner, she sees things on the other side of it, too. Things that maybe I've, like, pushed down and stuff like that, where she's like, we should probably talk about this. And it's, like, really nice in that sense of, like, she knows me pretty well, probably better than I know myself a little bit, And so I think that's been also really helpful in that sense of it too, because like I think any person is always going to put a mask. And even there is a degree of separation, just to even protect oneself from it as well. Like this is not therapy, this is theater. And so to help with that and like how do we make sure that it's still kind of truthful, but maybe it's a photocopy of a couple. It's a little bit faded, versus the real main thing.
How did this like impact your relationship? Because it's like you're having to bring up a lot of things. Not only are you like critiquing each other artistically. No, this is what I want to write. No, have you thought about this? Well, this is, so like you've got that. And then you also just have that kind of personal thing. Like Cleo, you were saying, bro, I think you need to like deal with this. And then you're like, bro, I'm not ready. So how has that like impacted your relationship?
Well, I think it's actually been, of course, right. There are moments where we get heated and where, we know how to press each other's buttons, but also it's been really great in bringing us together on things that we talk about, but do we really talk about? So there was at one point in the process where Tyler was talking about some of the stuff he was experiencing. And I just said to him, I was like, okay, I'm going to say some things that I have never felt like were my place to say. But now that we're writing this show, it is my place to say. And those things really, I think, moved the piece forward in a way that we really needed in a time that we really needed them. And where like having a disabled partner, didn't want to say certain things, but really we are partners, right? And we're like, I'm experiencing life with my beautiful, loving person who has really fucked up interactions with the world sometimes. And so it's a different experience for me because it's not happening to me, but now it is also happening to me. Happening to him means it's happening to me. And we experience a lot of these things together too. When we first started dating, Tyler would be out in public and we'd be walking down the street holding hands and he'd be like, that person was recording us, that person was recording us. And I was like, what? And now I do the same thing. We notice, right? Like I now notice the same things he notices. And I think my separation from his experience, right, because I am not him, allows me to hold people a little bit more accountable and to be a little bit more mad, right? When Tyler has his coping mechanisms that he's built throughout his life that are different than mine.
Yeah, and I think also Cleo is such a warm and giving person, and she has such a beautiful open heart, but like she has many people in her family, or like her family friends who have dwarfism that she knows very closely. And so this is not like her first time dealing with a person with dwarfism. As I've been like more and more introduced to Cleo's friends and people, like she has a lot of diverse other kind of people in her life because that's just how big of a heart she has. And like, she's able to open and welcome that, And so, which has been good. Her and I's relationship are like more strong with that. But then also, our working relationship of this show is really well. And like, she's really good at having her boundaries. And then I'd be like, okay, well, I kind of need help. Can you help me now, please? Then we open it up. We're making a really good show, I think, anyway, of whatever the subject matter is. The subject matter is there is a heart and some juiciness to it, but I think also too, I think it's just going to be a really fun show.
That's so good. We hit on like so many things I was so curious about. Well, we talked a little bit about the creative process of like Tyler bringing some ideas, being an idea guy, Cleo kind of helping flesh that out. Can you walk us through a little bit more of that process and what that looked like? More from like a technical aspect, I guess, than the emotional that we just covered.
I've been like kind of idea generating. I've been the one that's been like, oh, it'd be interesting to do this scene with this kind of as the way that we're telling it to then highlight these ideas maybe and stuff like that. And then Matt Fraser, who I talked about, he is an amazing writer. I worked with him and his wife, Juliette Lesmuse, in New York, and they're very good, close friends with mine. He is part of the thalidomide community, so meaning he has like flippers, but he doesn't have arms. And so he's a big disability artist, and like he's tied himself to a bus in England to have accessibility back in the day of like on buses and public transportation. And he's tenacious, and I'm not that. But I asked him to help do some writing with this, and he's now become the dramaturg of the show. And so the box was here, and he just like took a thing to like open it up and just like was like whew. And he was like what I was describing before was once far away is now like pretty close to home of me and my experience. And so he was the match of that. And then since then it's kind of been like I've sent him some drafts of stuff, he's sent some edits, I've been trying to write, and then like it's just not coming through. And so then I bring it to Cleo, and she helps it formulate it and stuff like that. Matt had us write a thesis paper for the show, which we then wrote, and Cleo really put a lot of the things that I was experiencing into some beautiful language. We wrote that, and now from that, in a beautiful way, we now have our tree root to then branch off into the other things. Is this saying what we want to say?
Nice. Cleo, what about you? What was the process like for you creatively?
This is kind of how our relationship and our creative relationship works. Tyler talks a lot, and then I'm going to sum it all up. So basically, Tyler had done this solo show prior, and, had a great time with it, and then started to realize that he needed to actually say something important with his work. So he had all these ideas, but there was no structure. And he did go to Matt, and they did some back and forths, and then it got to the point where it was like, okay, Tyler, you actually have to sit down and write this, right? And so he did. He sat down and wrote it, and then brought it to me. And I was like, okay, so now we have an idea, right? And now as we put it on its feet, everything's going to change. And you just have to be ready for everything to change.
But good changes. Good changes.
Great changes. But something that I think was, and you can speak to this, honey, but something that I think that was new for Tyler is that he mostly works solo. And so his whole thing is, okay, I write this thing, I do it in front of an audience, and then I make changes to whatever the audience doesn't respond to, which is clown. But this show is a combination of clown and documentary drama, right? It's like equal parts, those things. I think there were a lot of moments where Tyler would come to me and he'd be like, okay, we got it. And then I'd be like, okay, now do it. And then he'd do it for me. And then we'd change 12 things. And so that is the process we've been in for the last month and a half of like, okay, we've got this, now we're going to do it, and now we're going to change a bunch of stuff. Okay, now we've got this, now we're going to do it again, and we're going to change a bunch of stuff. And it's kind of like sculpting, or like we're chipping away at the block until we figure out, like we know what it is, specifically because we have this paper that we wrote. And now we're chipping away and we're molding, and we're figuring out what parts we have to build back up, what parts need to go a little bit more away. And it's really close. We're almost there.
And this will be this version at the Fringe, Orlando Fringe. We also luckily got into the Minnesota Fringe happening in August. And so we have 7 shows here in Orlando that we then will change that. And it might be even a completely different show in Minnesota, So if you come see it in Orlando, you should still come see it in Minnesota too. And I think with what Cleo's saying too of the clown aspect, I've been used to playing and doing stuff that is really fun. But now this has turned into, what are we saying with these fun things? And that's, I think, where we're like, oh, okay, this has to be changed because it's not telling the story that we want to tell. We have to shape it into the thing, and her eye and her heart is what's helping guide us into that nice, lovely area.
Really beautiful partnership. That's really nice. Well, what are you hoping people are going to walk away with when they've seen this show.
What's interesting too is like, as we're writing it, especially when you're someone that like is in something, you're like, I just want to see society burn. You want to like take a blowtorch and a flamethrower and just like, and just, you're like, but it can't be that. No one is gonna ever listen to anything if it is that. A lot of these things that people probably are gonna be like, oh yeah, I know here that was in my heart, like that was probably not good. And so I think maybe they'll have a language. Maybe like you now know how to say achondroplasia. I think there's little tidbits and things that people hopefully will take different parts away. I think this is an interesting story of like a person with dwarfism who is a clown. I wanted to be a clown for so long, and then I am one, and now I'm realizing, oh, dwarves in circus and clowning are like part of the tapestry of circus. And so I've just kind of basically done what's already been done before, but like I'm also like, I'm gonna be different. That's also a really interesting, I think, journey for people hopefully to witness on stage, and will take them through as well.
My hopes are similar to your hopes, that the audience can leave with a little bit more of an understanding of dwarfism. What is it? And what are the struggles?
And this is just mine. This is just our story. There's maybe a couple moments that like I'm speaking for the rest of us, of the community, but like there's so many other experiences out there.
But also, you know, our show is, like Tyler said, focused on his life. So it's also more focused on people with achondroplasia than many other types of dwarfism. And we try to make that clear too. You know, we talk about achondroplasia, but something that has been coming up a lot ever since Tyler and I have been together is like when I say, oh, my partner has a disability, people say, oh, like what? And I say, oh, well, he has dwarfism. And they say, is that a disability? And I'm just baffled every time, but the amount that I receive that question is like shocking. And so I think really, truly, that's what I hope people leave with, is an understanding that, you know, we're not laughing at people in wheelchairs, but why are we laughing when my partner walks down the street? And we talked a lot about, you know, the people that come to our show are not the people that are going to be making fun of us when we walk down the street. But having seen the show, having said these things, having brought attention to it, maybe it can just bring a little bit of awareness and softness and care when you see someone with dwarfism being harassed. You might know what to do.
Oh, so good. I'm like taking it in for a minute. That's really beautiful. But you're building this alliance and helping educate people so they can speak up and they know what to say when the opportunity happens.
And I think also too, I think as both of us are theater makers of like, I just want to create a really good show that people can enjoy and escape. And I know there's so much things going on in the world, as we know, as there always is. Maybe bring awareness to this and let's just escape for a little bit of some part of society and the craziness outside too. Just have a fun night of theater.
That's so good. Spoken like a true comedian, of like the value of humor, of like that it's so necessary in life to find that opportunity to step in the theater for an hour and just forget about the world and have somebody make you laugh and remember that you're alive, that you're connected to the human race, that there are beautiful, wonderful people out there. We are all connected. And that's exciting. I'm excited to see this show. Okay, well, we've had such a great discussion. I could talk to you guys all day, but you have stuff to do. I have stuff to do. So we'll get to our last question. And either one of y'all or both of y'all, however you want to answer this, but what has been your most interesting or awkward Fringe interaction that you've had, or kind of performing arts interaction, some fun story you'd like to share with us?
We talked a little bit before this about how mostly my Fringe experiences, I'm brought in as a director, and then the show kind of goes on its own. So I'm not usually there for the Fringe. But the first ever Fringe show I directed was for an actor-creator named Hope Lafferty. She's amazing. And her show, like the set was this box that she built that she would get in and out of with this kind of, flap top. when she took it back out on the road, she hired me as a director. I directed it and she went. And then she broke both of her wrists. And so she couldn't figure out how to load in and out in 10 minutes this box with broken wrists. And so we had to devise this plan. Basically, we had to figure out, choreograph a system for her with this cart and all of this stuff that she could get this together. So it became much more than the show, right? That from load in was part of the show until load out, end of the show, with this choreography and the system, which, just amazed me. And as my first Fringe show, I really was like, what are we doing here? Right? What is going on? But it also inspired me that anything is possible, even with 2 broken wrists.
Yeah, come on. That's so good. I love that story. All right, Tyler, you're in the hot seat, bro.
The one story that is an interesting interaction is I went and did the San Diego International Fringe, and the show did really good, and I fortunately won an award, and the award was the Cultural Exchange Award, which meant that they would pay for my fees and flight to Sydney, Australia. That was their partnership of the International Fringe. And so I went to go do the Sydney Fringe for 8 days. And I just had moved to New York City and I only took 8 days off of work. And I was like, you idiot, you had almost full paid trip to Sydney and you're only there for 8 days. What the heck are you doing? And my dad was a dentist, and so he gave me some sleeping pills because I was traveling from Dallas to Sydney, and he gave me 3 pills. The first, I took 1 pill on the way there because I've never taken sleeping pills, so I was like, okay, I'll just take 1. I didn't sleep. It was a 17.5-hour flight. Took it, didn't really sleep very well. So I was like, on the way back, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the 2. I took the 2, and then halfway through the flight, I realized that I never got to take chance and partake in a Tim Tam, which is the dark chocolate covered cookie. And so drugged up Tyler, then asked the flight attendant. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't get any Tim Tams. Do you have any Tim Tams? And he's like, I don't know, but I could check. And then I land and I have a Tim Tam wrapper in my hands. And I don't really remember eating the Tim Tam because I just was so drugged up and I just and then passed out. And so that's the story.
That's a ridiculous Fringe story.
The beauty of the Fringe, I don't know. You don't really know what happened. It's you're drugged on Ambien and you have a whole bunch of Tim Tams without ever knowing.
I love it. Oh gosh. Well, Tyler and Cleo, thank you so much for joining me today on What the Fringe.
Thank you very much for having us, Lauren.
All right. Well, Small Minded is playing at the Orlando Fringe this May and the Minnesota Fringe in August. You can learn more about Tyler and Cleo on their websites, the original Tyler West and Cleo DeOrio.com. And then you can keep up with them on Instagram at the original Tyler West and Cleo Zen. Those will all be linked in the show notes. And you can find their show on Facebook, Small Minded, the show. What the Fringe is produced and hosted by me, Lauren Hantz. This episode was edited by Ben Ellis of Renowned Media, and those sweet tunes you hear provided by Paul Snyder of Orchestra of Sound. Our logo was designed by Ruby Arnold of Ruby Makes Things. What the Fringe can be found on your favorite podcast platform and now on YouTube. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the know when new episodes release. And keep up with What the Fringe on Instagram at whatthefringe_productions and find us online at whatthefringeproductions.com. As a member of the media, I get a lot of pitches for me to come see shows. And in your email, you need a really good hook. So I suggest something like...
This is normally played by a person who's average and white and maybe a dad bod, and now here's a dwarf in a G-string.